What's up, you guys? Welcome back to PC Gamer Girl. My name's Gray. We are playing The Letter. This is part 14. This game is long, you guys. Alright, so we're playing Zach right now. And we are just about to get in a car and go somewhere with Hannah. So I guess we're going to figure out what's happening. And let's go. Especially with the way her eyes light up when I agreed to it. Agreed to get in the car with her. In my pocket, the very picture of her remains faceless. A voiceless shadow hanging threateningly between us, unknown to her. Okay. If someone told me I'd be spending my entire morning being dragged around half of downtown Luxborn looking for furniture, I probably would have simply smiled at them. Then perhaps even given them a good friendly pat on the shoulder and wished them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, this is most definitely a nice change of pace after weeks of getting bogged down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside my apartment whenever I can. If only the weather could be a whole lot nicer. The kind with less sun and more clouds, perhaps. With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us as high noon approaches, I can see why Mr. Wright skipped out on this trip. The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Miss Wright in a less somber mood. After the fifth store, her pace is considerably livelier, her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the manor. The presence of another person might have helped as well. Although Miss McCullough seems less predisposed to small talk, preferring to keep to herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us wherever. She did acknowledge me with a small nod when we were introduced earlier, but that didn't make standing outside the store together any less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside.
So, interior design, huh?
She cast me a sidelong glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper in quick successive strokes. She side-eyed you, Zach. Ah, there goes that. I did say I'm not any good at starting or keeping conversations going, didn't I? She doesn't look back up again, and I take it as my cue to stop any attempt of striking a dialogue with her and keep myself occupied with some other thing. Except what we have here is just Luxborn and its busy streets. People going about their day like normal, cars moving in and out of sight, heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable, really. The ease with which a person can fade into the background here is reflective of the kind of city Luxborn will always be, but the humdrum's one thing I learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay that way. There are times when it would come alive, make itself known, and reassert itself back into the world. However, those moments are few and far between. Then again, with what graces the news channels lately, I'm starting to think it's going to happen sooner. Can't say I'm looking forward to what it'll bring.
Luxury living, is it?
Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts just as I count the 13th passerby wearing a hat today. Beside me, I can hear the faint rustling of paper and the clicking of her pen as she stashes them back to her bag.
Excuse me, what?
The magazine you're working for. It's Luxury Living, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You've been featured by them before, I take it?
A few years back, yes. For just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, though not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right?
It may not show in her face, but the pride is evident in her
Good
voice.
folks, the people running the publication. Tell me, is DK still on the editorial team?
Nah, I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know.
Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him, actually, even if we both came from two different fields. I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while.
You might want to catch up.
Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this.
I wouldn't say I am, but experienced, you know? The more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade. That kind of stuff.
I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with the competition. Each year, a new talent emerges, and, well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices. Believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this?
Sure. Is it a ghost woman?
Think so? Depends on how big the project is.
She reaches into her bag again. This time to pull out a business card, which she hands over to me.
When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris. He's my assistant. He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better.
Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in. But, alright, I'll give it a go once.
Marianne, could you look this over for me?
At that very moment, Miss Wright emerges from the store. When I look back to Miss McCullough, a mask of professionalism has returned to her. Or at least that's what it is trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes as she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that would be too presumptuous. Whatever it is doesn't last and is briskly swept under the firm tone. I cannot talk. Her voice
Definitely.
discerns.
Is there a problem?
They said they don't have the colors you suggested. Do you think we can change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want, and you know I'd rather not worry about this later.
I think it'd be better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me.
Those rich people and their demands. She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Ms. Wright lets out a giggle and swipes the business card cleanly off my hand. She smiles, a bemused little thing spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'll do that more often, the smiling thing. You know, Zach, I wouldn't get too close to her if I were you. It suits her more than the other ones she frequently shows to the media.
I look away, and the next thing I know, you're picking up women. On the streets, while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appalled or amazed.
Or indifferent, which would be the more appropriate response.
Whatever happened to the Zach I met a day ago? About as tall as you. Photographer. Quite the gentleman. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone.
Girl, sit down.
It ain't like that, Miss Wright. And I'm sure Miss McCullough is not the kind of woman to let herself be picked up by strangers, let alone people she barely knows.
Oh, shush. Let me have my fun. And didn't I say you can call me Hannah?
She gives the card back to me nevertheless, and with it, her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful as she looks back towards the shop's display window. There's nothing remotely interesting in it for me when I follow her line of sight, though. A few trinkets here and there, a fur rug, a sofa, a wooden side table, and a lamp, all tastefully picked and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. On second thought, it does look comfortable. But why they added a crib beside it baffles me. Unless, of course, the people they're hoping to market to are those who already have children, or about to have one, then maybe it is fitting. Peculiar choice of decorations aside, it does make for a nice icebreaker if it's not on the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. It still leaks better than the awkward silence, which is definitely too out of character for a personality like Miss Hannah's. How should I start the conversation? I don't know why he'd ask if a crib makes a good gift, so let's just say I think that one
I
looks
think that one looks cute.
Hannah balks to my surprise, shuffling 2 steps away from the window and glares at it with such vehemence as if I did something remotely scandalous. A funny sight when taken out of context, and I probably will be laughing, really, if I understood what warranted such a reaction. from
I
her.
wasn't looking at the crib.
Sure you weren't.
Wasn't really talking about the crib, Hannah.
Very good then. But it wasn't the crib, all right.
Okay.
Alright, I get you. But that's not it. Honest. I was just saying the stuff that was on display there looks nice. Or at least as nice that it can be compared to the ones we visited earlier. But I'm sure your interior designer has something different in mind for your mansion, so don't mind me.
I was hoping that would be enough to cut the topic short. Instead, she sighs, leans on the wall closest to her, and runs her hands through a lock of her hair. There's a far-flung look in her eyes, even as she fixes it on the concrete curb.
You need to stop looking at people like that, sweetie.
I'm afraid I don't quite catch your drift, ma'am.
I suppose you wouldn't be aware of it. Do you know you always carry this kind of phase? Like you're always staring at the world with this honest look. Like all there is to see is all the good in it.
Frankly, I don't see anything wrong if it's like that. I mean, there always has to be something in it. You know, a sprinkle of kindness here and there. Otherwise, we'd all be miserable.
Zach's such a good guy. Man, I really hope nothing happens to
For you,
him.
maybe. Some people have to fight through it just to see that. And kindness isn't always a great thing to have around. Sometimes too much of it can hurt.
It makes you wonder where this is coming from, how bad things have really gone for her to have this view. I do understand her sentiment, really I do. Still, when it's the last thing you can cling to when things have gone irreversibly bad sometimes, you simply don't get to make a choice.
Besides, the point is, it's impossible to lie when a person is looking at you like that.
I don't see a problem with that.
Or I could, but I'd feel like a horrible person afterwards.
Then don't lie!
Did you hear that, Mr. Zach? You just made me feel like a horrible person.
Well, pin a rose on your nose. I'm so sorry.
I sort of wish I had one like it. Just so people would stop lying to my face.
Or you can start by being honest with yourself. It shouldn't be quite hard. Friends don't lie to each other, don't they?
I guess so.
So what was the lie?
That she wasn't looking at the crib. Duh. She draws in a breath, lays a soothing hand to her stomach.
But it
and-
was really the crib I was looking at earlier, silly.
Oh, thank you, Captain Obvious.
You're right, Uncle Zach. It's cute, but the pattern's not to my taste. I'm pretty sure Marianne could do something about that, though. At the moment, what I should really be worried about is if I'm ever going to be a good mother to this child. Ned, I can't even tell the father he's going to be one in a few months' time.
Whoa! Back it up. Oh, hang on a second. Did she just say she's pregnant? Oh. This is not going to be... I don't even know how to respond to that. Excuse me? Well, alright.
Probably doesn't even want anything to do with this whole pregnancy thing. What am I going to do, Zach? Because right now, I'm absolutely at a loss.
Okay. That's kind of my response too, Zach.
Oh.
Yeah. The realization strikes me like a ton of bricks suddenly bearing down on me. More than astonishment must have shown in my face because Hana lets out a chuckle. The slump on her shoulders disappears altogether underneath her
Don't
mirth.
look so surprised, dearie. Tied the knot 7 years ago, remember? Don't you think it's bound to happen?
Oh boy. She brandishes her hand in front of me, the unassuming silver band on her finger glinting against the late morning sunlight for a second. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the trace of sadness in her voice. For all I know, there's an entire story there. I'd ask, but what would be too inappropriate for even friends? It's not my place to meddle to begin
Or at
with.
least that's what they've been saying early on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming.
But the kid is something you want, right? Because if it ain't, then that's a whole other problem.
Of course. I wouldn't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here, all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about.
Like telling your husband who doesn't want kids, apparently?
Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model. I practically grew up with nursemaids pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well?
That's simple. Just don't hire a ton of nursemaids to care for your
Oh,
kid.
I can already see how this will end.
Huh. I guess it's not just my sister.
What?
You and my sister. I mean, you're both having jitters or something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters? Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then. He even called me in the middle of the night. Has to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is.
I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet.
Oh, you don't know that? My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. Said she's one cranky pregnant lady.
Oh boy.
Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before that bundle of joy arrived, huh?
It can't be that awful.
Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Right to decide, yeah?
Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up.
Then maybe you should say it to his face. No mincing of words or beating around the bushes.
And if he says no?
You haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men?
That's the theory.
I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course, but there ought to be something that will hit him in that idea alone.
A wrecking ball would be nice.
Laughter escapes me before I can stop it, and for a moment I thought I've done something wrong when she doesn't join in. He's still her husband, no matter what gesture complete she hurls about him behind the media's eyes, or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does, her chuckle, a small hesitant sound at first. I find the rest of my unease slipping
Well,
away.
whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen. In the same way, you don't know if you'll be a good mom. Trust me, my sister's been there. It's perfectly normal. If, my opinion matters, though.
A long second of indecision goes by. I can feel her eyes, filled with nothing but curiosity, pouring into me while she waits for the rest. It's just a simple sentiment, but one thing I think she needs to hear for all the doubts she unwittingly places on herself. I'm just not sure if it should come from me. I'll be damned.
I think you'll be a great mother, Hana.
If she has an answer to that, I don't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it's out of my mouth, the bell hanging over the antique store's door chimes, and out comes Miss McCullough. For more than one reason, I've never been so relieved our talk got interrupted.
Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. We'll have everything you requested delivered early. I've left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check for a few things. I hope that's acceptable to you.
More than Marianne. This is a little early to say, but you did marvelous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow.
I'm only doing my job, ma'am. Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work.
Nonsense! You have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still make sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes. I'll see if I can introduce you to them tomorrow.
I really don't want to impose, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself.
You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur le Photographe. You better be the one taking the pictures for the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset.
Okay. I blink at her, confused. Last I checked, I have nothing scheduled on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects. But with the expecting expression on Hannah's face alone, I've wondered before how they got Isabella to sell them the mansion with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well, now the how is already standing in front of me, and it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. If I have any doubts how she got around in life, all of them have been dispelled right this instant. Hana hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be.
What event?
Our housewarming party, dearie. I've already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now.
I may have probably missed it. I haven't gotten the chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real-life happenings, they can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet.
That's not a problem. Nothing a little call from me can't fix. I'll have them know I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you'll show up. I expect to see you both there. No excuses.
Good company, good music, good food. Of course I'll be there.
Zach's my kind of guy.
Lovely. I hope we have that settled then. I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this. You two will have to excuse me.
Are you feeling fine, ma'am?
It's nothing big.
There's a short while in which her hand faintly touches her stomach when she says this. Her smile as she does so, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid is already loved, even when he or she has yet to have a sense of the world. Candid moments like this I wish I brought a camera for.
Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but, well, you two know how it goes.
It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well.
Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way.
No, please. There's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city.
I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion. Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later.
Nah, I live within the city too. A few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because...
Oh, right, he hasn't told her yet. The photos. Damn, I've completely forgotten about them. My hand grazes the side of my pocket where I kept them since this morning. And sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see
Because, Zach, sweetie, you're zoning out.
Miss Hannah, earlier, at the mansion?
them. Yeah, let's show her the pictures.
I think it will be better if you take a look at these yourself.
Seeing is believing, right? I reach into my pocket and pull out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and I have to stamp down the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having the gall to show it to her. Only it cuts deeper the instant both her and Miss McCullough's expressions change. And it's not a good look. To say she's repulsed would be a total understatement. All this time, Hannah's been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour and the camera lenses, she's a whole different person. But as she goes through each of the pictures, I can't get an easy read on her.
Zach, dearie, what is this?
Your photos. The ones you requested copies of. I mean, they came out that way and I thought you should know.
Oh, I get it. You know, I've heard before that artists can be a bit weird.
It's not our fault.
Have you ever gotten that kind of comment, Marianne?
Not in my line of work, I'm afraid. Or ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual work. Less stress that way.
Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, you see, when we had that photo shoot yesterday, there was something.
I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible for you to give me normal-looking ones? Preferably with my head intact. I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic.
Girl.
Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home. So please.
She drops them back in my hands like they're very surface burners.
If you could redo this, that would be wonderful. I'm positive you can do a better job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum,
Yeah. I can, sure.
You can take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go.
She leaves without so much as a wave. I don't have to take a guess to know I've dismayed her, in her own words, weirded her out. Beside me, Miss McCullough shakes her head. What are the odds I've ruined my chances with the job she offered earlier? Very high, I'd say. It's a foolish idea in the first place. Miss McCullough departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something about getting a quick lunch before fetching Bruthiel from Chris. I don't know what or who a Bruthiel is. It must be important for her to be in this kind of hurry. It's probably the cat. And while she doesn't seem to be fond of small talk, something we can both agree on. Lunch sounds good, or a walk around the city maybe, but with the sun as high as it is now, nah. And after how things went with Miss Hannah I simply can't muster the appetite for anything at the moment. If I don't do anything with it now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again. And by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash? Rebecca? In all likelihood, all they'll give me is a pat on the back and a Z-Man, go get some sleep, you're at it again, from Ash. I talked to Isabella, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up in my apartment 2 days ago. Weird. There is one person, though.
I should have thought of that first.
As it turns out, I do have another choice. I'm not a religious person. I won't identify myself as such. Or rather, I can't. Sure, my grandparents didn't have to force me to go weekly. I'd happily join them. In fact, most of my childhood Sundays have been spent attending service. It's simply that as you get older, the more experience you get, forming your own beliefs on things become easier, for the lack of a better word. And at one point it just stopped, that kind of thing. Nevertheless, I hold no disdain for it. Sometimes it does help. When things are really, really bad, when the dreams won't stay where they should be. Talking does, a bit. It's also a good thing Father Norman's, well, he's not completely the pious man you'd totally expect. My unlikely friendship only probably happened because he's the kind of guy who's cool with the young ones, as he so aptly puts it. And he is, surprisingly. It makes him easy to approach. Like that one time with Isabella. I don't think he believes in the ghost kind, but there he went. Maybe he has something to say about the photos as well. It won't hurt since I've already gone ahead and went to Anselm. At daybreak, on my bike. At the very least, I know I won't get shouted at by whoever answers the door.
Unless someone does that inside a church. I highly doubt it.
Despite its age, the Luxborn Church is a thing of wonder in itself, with its high vaulted ceilings and intricate stained glass windows. One of the many gifts the Ermengarde family donated to the community in its early days. Or so I heard from Rebecca. She mentioned this once, although most of it flew over my head then. At this time of the day, the church is mostly empty, save for a few visitors and ushers shuffling about, some muttering their prayers under their breath. The scene of burning candles and incense permeate the air, giving the place a general feeling of reverence. Pretty welcoming, all in all. Even so, I keep the noise my treads make to a minimum. Disturbing the quiet feels like a sin alone. An usher points me to a pew in front of the altar when asked where Father Norman prays. He mentioned something about the good priest not being in good health. Ever since he did a favor for a friend to bless an old house. Oh no! This is the first time in days he's left his room. No surprise there with the weird heat lately. Even Rebecca caught something. Nervous little chap, the kid. Nevertheless, he leads me close to the front foot of the dais, with a reminder not to stay too long before walking off. Seconds later, Father shifts and stands. He doesn't seem to have noticed me, and I have to give him a little tap on the shoulder. When he looks, though, to say he's surprised is an understatement.
Stay away.
Oh. Uh-oh. His voice comes out a whisper, almost inaudible in the hush, a quiet restraint and deference to where we both stand. But the tremor's there. He focuses on me with wide, bulging eyes, copious amounts of sweat appearing in his forehead despite the relative coolness of the place.
Father Norman?
Keep your distance.
Hey, it's me, Zach, remember?
Goodness.
Stay away. Don't come near me.
It must be the fever talking, or whatever he caught. It has to be. I don't recall ever doing anything for him to drive me away like this. In all the years I've known him, he's been nothing but polite, nothing but accepting of people regardless of beliefs or status in life. For words akin to a threat to come out of him, it's simply beyond
Go
unimaginable.
back to where you came from. Leave.
Father, what did I do?
Leave now.
I extend a hand to his shoulder, meant to be reassuring. But he recoils, his ankle catching on the edge of the dais as he backs away. His shout when I attempt to reach out again echoes through the entire hall, catching the attention of the few people inside. I try to keep a level tone, but with these strangers' eyes trained on us, panic starts to weave its way into me.
Stay away, demon. Go back to the hell you came from.
Oh boy, this is going
Father,
well.
it's okay. I only came here for some pictures I thought looked odd. I figured you might know something.
From my pocket, I fish out the photos and try to hand it to him. Instead, he strikes my wrist away, almost like an accusation, and sends the photographs fluttering uselessly to the floor. Helpless, I can only watch as he curls himself onto the ground, a sad, blubbering mess whimpering to himself. He tips his head forward and begins rocking, his hand clapped over his ears.
That accursed spirit. So full of anger and pain. All those horrible things I've seen. I can't sleep. I can't eat everywhere I look. Go away. Go away. Go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is a house of God. Be gone, demon. Lord have mercy, God our Lord, King of ages, all powerful and almighty. You who
Lord,
made
it's
everything and
divine.
transform everything simply by your will.
A number of people have moved closer, mostly just to gawk. Thankfully, as if to save him from being an utter spectacle, 2 ushers come out taking him away. One of them, the kid from earlier, shoots me an apologetic look. I can't even return it to him. Anxiety is a powerful thing, a firm little notion that clings, eats, and consumes you. I can still hear his prayers even as they drag him away.
May he keep at bay and vanquish every evil power, every poison or malice invoked against us by corrupt and envious people. Then under the protection of your authority may we sing in gratitude.
It rings, hums in me as I am left to pick up the pieces of this chaos. Back to square one we go. If there is salvation in this, I hope we find it soon. The moon is well into the night sky by the time I make it back home. My heavy treads and the sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some semblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me walk like that, but after today I really can't give a damn about everything. The mattress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop down on it, and I find myself looking at the paper under my grip. As promised, Miss Wright had my bike delivered back to my apartment. Ah, that must be the housewarming party thing. Found it parked in the rack downstairs with an invitation and a note tacked to it, in fact. Be there, it said. If only it were that easy, but it'll give me a chance to talk to her about that thing in their house. With a sigh, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed along with the invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow when my head ain't muddled with thoughts of a headless woman and the haunting smiles of a ghost. Belatedly, it occurs to me I haven't eaten anything since I left this morning. And an empty gnawing ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time and frankly a disappointment. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on, the part where I don't know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damn letter, everything has been thrown out of the loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make sense of than this. Closing my eyes, I let the noise from the streets below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's the one thing that hasn't changed. October 29th, Saturday. The melody carries into the hall long before I cross the threshold. Solemn but gentle and soothing, a reminder of what home is. Pa's firm but meaningful gaze, Ma's wistful smiles, the warm rays fluttering through the eaves of sunset, the distinct smell of wet earth and leaves after a long day's rain, and our room. The room, Ma and Pa's pride and joy, a place we were once promised several springs ago. I feel like this is the same thing that started when we first started playing Zack. Yet it won't stop.
No, wait! Come back! I'll be
It
good
is.
this time!
It's the same dream.
Please don't leave! Please stay!
The floorboards are cold under my feet more than it usually is, the walls more forbidding than what I'm used to. Farther and farther the room goes. Ma's singing ceases and Pa, I can't hear Pa. Not above the raucous clanging and the deafening roar of gunshots, nor the screams replacing the comforting soft melodies. There's only the blinding fear. But when the light breaks, her skin has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. We did this already too. He's basically just dreaming. Bony hands grip Hannah's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes. That was really loud, and it sounded like Bella. A scream ripples through the air. My whole body feels distant. Every limb heavy with lead, all unable to move at will. Not even so I can wipe the beads of sweat forming at my temple. The rasping of my breath easily fills the room in the wee hours, while I force it back into a steady rhythm. There's a tightness in my chest I can't shake off, my heart pounding against it as if it's about to burst out. Something cold has settled in my legs. Not the usual chill that comes and goes with the passing breeze from the window, but one strong enough to sting, shackle, and leave a frigid sensation creeping up on my skin. With every struggle I make, the pressure winds firmly around my legs. Tighter, and tighter, and tighter, all until it becomes too much. My heart stops. Another draft sweeps into the room and brings with it an iron tang of blood. Thick, suffocating, filling my nose with a foul, sickening smell as I shift my gaze downwards and it slowly comes into view. Oh, no. Mouth stretched in a hideous smile and eyes brimming with nothing but madness. The stench of gore taints the air around me and I can't look away. From it, her, from the terror and death that her uncanny, twisted features alone scream. I try to open my mouth to shout, to ask for any help, but my voice has left my body altogether. All I have is the painful realization that no kind of plea will ever save me from her. Then suddenly the bed dips. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, that was... Whew. Not prepared. The brutal plunge back into myself jerks me awake. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. There is no ear-splitting scream, no wild thrashing of limbs. Just a painful, constricting awareness that something has wound itself tightly around my neck. I waste no second pulling it, a blanket away, but allow myself a few minutes to steady my breathing before getting off the bed. Inhale, hold, exhale. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. But the dreams have gotten worse. Ever since 2 days ago, no longer are they the small cursory flashes that I'm used to, but vivid ones that linger. I can still feel the blood in my hands, the putrid smell of rotting flesh, the sickening crunch of bones breaking with every movement, and their cold, chilling eyes as they bore into me. I draw in one long, ragged breath, and before I know it, I'm walking out the door. Even in the waking world, it reeks. Okay, guys, we're going to leave this episode here for today. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. I'm really loving this game, and I apologize that it's so long, but it's so good, and I love it. If you do like this video, please hit the like button down below. If you're subscribed to my channel, that's awesome. If you're not, please hit the subscribe button, and I would love to have you here. And you can feel free to follow me on Twitter, @PCGamerGirl. And I will see you guys later. Bye!